Veilguard is the greatest EA game ever made, hitting 10 times the player count Inquisition had half a decade after it came out. It managed a staggering 10% of the beta for Monster Hunter Wilds, and is currently neck and neck with last year's GOTY winner, Baldur's Gate 3. BioWare is one of the biggest names in Western RPGs. They were on the same field as Bethesda and Blizzard. BioWare was so big they not only made some of the biggest and best Western RPGs, but other studios would make sequels to their games. Yes, that's right, they were such a big deal, they weren't even making their own sequels. Obsidian, which has gone on to become a large studio themselves, made Neverwinter Nights 2, KOTOR 2, Alpha Protocol off BioWare games, and New Vegas was made off of Bethesda. Baldur's Gate 3, did you know BioWare made the first two of those? When you look at Western RPGs, this studio is one of the major pillars which supported the genre, and Dragon Age is one of their best known IPs, so Veilguard is coming into the market not only with several successes, propelling it in terms of sales, but also a series that has been well received for a long time. There's two scores. How do you choose? Well, one score is by journalists for journalists, and the other is by gamers for gamers. So if you're ever having trouble knowing who to trust more, if you're a journalist, go with the journal rating, and if you're a gamer, go with the gamer rating. Both ratings can be right. Execs will be very happy with the journalist score, earning the review score bonuses, and developers will also be very happy, having successfully virtue signaled to the right people on Twitter before they get their well-earned layoffs. What's amazing is how deceptive journalists are being propping up Veilguard. They are comparing it to Inquisition, and you know what? That sounds fair on the surface. Inquisition did well, it was the previous game in the series, it was well received, it was a decent game overall. So why wouldn't the Steam numbers for one be compared to the other? Well, there's a little thing. See, Veilguard released on Steam the day it came out. Inquisition released on Steam 6 years after it came out. Nobody in the journalism industry is pointing this out or calling it out though. This isn't even a well-hidden slip-up or some innocent mistake, and they've been called out on it. Yet, they are all colluding on the deception, as usual, and that means nobody can break ranks. Nobody can actually do journalism, because that's not their purpose. Their purpose is propaganda in support of Electronic Arts. Their joint headlines are that the Veilgate has blown away Inquisition's Steam numbers, that this has done so much better and is the biggest release for BioWare. This looks true to someone with no information other than the headline, which is the point. They know their line, we know their line, but they also know that most people won't check. What they are leaving out that makes this so disturbingly dishonest is that you cannot simply compare a day one release on Steam of Veilguard to Inquisition at 6 years. It is interesting, isn't it, that for years, journalists led the battle against Electronic Arts, Activision, and Ubisoft, but now, they're the biggest cheerleaders and protectors. They're to praise the companies no matter how bad their monetization or games have become, how much they piss off the audience, and it's all because of access journalism and the corporations supporting their ideology. That is how cheap you can buy a journalist in the West is. A few nice words and a game code. Remember when journalists were raising a stink about NFTs? They were treating it like the worst thing ever, that it was going to destroy the environment. Ubisoft just dropped an NFT game a few days ago. You might not even know about this, because they have no desire to push this because it hurts the corporation that they now are beholden to. There is no attempt from journalists to make sure this is well known. This is not the thing that they're going to be trying to flood the internet with, the way that they were a few years ago when they were more clearly against this type of action. Their only goal now is to protect woke ideology and fight gamers on Twitter. Interesting that journalists are acting like they got a win because Electronic Arts has had a somewhat successful launch, when they've just repeated what they did for Cyberpunk's release, lying about the game, causing amazing sales right away before people realized that the journalists had lied. Why did we ever pretend some people who barely play games and don't even pay for them should have a greater voice than gamers who have to pay for the game? Does a review of someone who paid $70 for the game matter more to you than someone who got a free code and only wants to play the game to match their politics? So I suggest going forward, if you're a gamer, ignore the journalist reviews entirely. They are made for you, Chud. They are made for the media elites and the consultants. So let's all just enjoy yet another game that gamers hate and activists love, winning Game of the Year for ideology reasons. And keep in mind, there is a way to be much more trustworthy to the audience. Monster Hunter Wilds just released a beta, and this beta is blowing Veilguard away in terms of concurrent numbers, despite it just being a beta. But the more important thing is Monster Hunter Wilds allows you to play and test the game yourself before you purchase it. There was no such demo for the Veilguard. There was no such beta or any way for gamers to have any clue what the game would have in it beyond the opinions of games critics who have been handpicked by Electronic Arts and BioWare to provide the opinions that they want the journalists to provide to the audience. This is exactly what happened with Cyberpunk, and the best way to avoid this is always going to be giving gamers a way to find out for themselves. Going forward, I would suggest not even trusting a game unless it offers a demo. Wilds offered a demo. Metaphor ReFantasio also offered a very substantial demo. Both of these demos could provide 5 or more hours of content and plenty enough to understand what the game is going to hold for you and whether or not you'll enjoy it. Now let me know what you think of this video. Type 1 if you agree with everything I said, 2 if you think I'm correct, 3 if your opinion lines up with mine, or 4 if I have managed to convince you I am right about everything.